Good evening and welcome to The Story. I'm Evan Watson in for Blair Best. For a lot of us, we've heard the word tariff more in the last few months than ever before. The Trump administration's on-again, off-again economic policies are frequently shifting markets and account balances. For business owners always planning for the future, that uncertainty is a big deal, and it's our big story tonight. I wanted to get a sense of how the proposed tariffs are affecting people in our community. After many calls, emails, and door knocks, I found 3 small business owners in Portland who are willing to talk with me about this. Our plan is to check back in with these 3 business owners throughout the year. It is a small sample size, I'll give you that, of course, but a way to get a sense of the tangible, real-world impacts from the Trump administration's planned reshaping of global economic policy. Even without full implementation of the tariff plans, some business owners are already seeing impacts.
First word that comes to mind is uncertainty.
I would say the environment is uncertain and a little confusing.
Small business owners in Portland want to know what happens next. The Trump administration's introduction of international tariffs rocked markets and rattled the global economy. The White House says tariffs are needed to balance trade with other countries and boost domestic manufacturing. The administration temporarily paused the tariff rollout, helping some markets rebound. But trade wars are still in play, and the ripple effects reach local businesses. Barb Wright owns Oodles Kids in Southeast Portland, a toy, baby, and gift shop. For her business, reliant on the global supply chain, tariffs mean higher prices.
That gets passed on to us, and then we have to pass it on to the customer. It's cost of goods sold. That's how retail works, and we absorb what we can. But as a small business, we have lower margins, lower room for error, and we just have to pass on some things.
Even with a tariff pause, some of Wright's suppliers already raised their prices, and they're not taking that back. Wright got this email. Due to recently imposed 20% tariffs, we regret to inform you that we must adjust our pricing across all pre-orders. Another company sent out a new price spreadsheet showing new rates for each product because of the Trump administration's proposed tariffs.
And we're looking at, I would say, an average from 5% to 20%, depending on who it is, cost increase to us and then to the end consumer as a result.
Wright says she doesn't have much of a choice.
When it comes to what you are selling here, toys, a lot of them are not made domestically, correct?
Correct. A lot of toys are imported, a lot from China.
About 5 minutes north, Don Seymour has a similar problem.
Some of them are local, some of them are, New Zealand, Canada, the UK.
She owns Fiber Rhythm Craft and Design, a small yarn and knitting store. With textiles, it's not just who Seymour buys from that matters in a tariff-driven economy, but where the raw materials come from.
Even the local people that we purchase from that are based in the U.S., their yarns are made all over the place. Peru, Turkey, Italy, places like that.
So either made in or purchased from, what's the estimate of your shop that would be international, would you say?
80%.
Seymour is already paying the price, too. A New Zealand company raised its rates about 10% on average. That means difficult choices.
The margins that we work on now, pre-tariff, are just barely enough to get us to pay the rent and pay for employees. So we will be doing some things like not rehiring. So the prices will be going up. We hope to delay that as much as possible, but I think it's going to be inevitable.
But some small business owners have a little more protection.
Tie down straps. One is to connect wood to masonry, standard foundation plate.
John Weber owns Northwest Seismic, a retrofitting company that makes homes more resistant to earthquakes. That means he uses a lot of one material.
Everything here is domestic steel.
Keyword, domestic, not subject to tariffs placed on other countries.
Given the nature of the work that we do, we're in probably better shape than somebody who is dependent on international imports.
Still, Weber says that doesn't give him immunity. He could see the demand going up for domestic steel.
And therefore prices going up.
Right.
KGW will check in with all 3 business owners throughout the year to see how their companies are responding to potential tariffs. At the moment, Wright is most worried about consumer behavior, saying spending paralysis can be crippling.
If everyone ratchets it down, gets nervous, and is waiting to see what happens, I think that's kind of the hardest part for a small business.
A future uncertain for business owners who rely on a plan.
I think it's just going to stay a roller coaster.
So what's going through your mind? What do you think about the tariff strategy? We're also very interested in hearing from any of you that are feeling effects of tariffs, either as a business owner yourself or as a consumer. Let us know. Email to story@kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail 503-226-5090. And it's not just our local companies feeling the pinch. A Seattle outdoor clothing company, Kavu, known for its colorful gear, is getting caught in the middle of the U.S. trade war with China. Much of their fall line is being produced in China and other countries, and the company's CEO says almost all of it is ready to ship to the U.S., but once it gets here, it'll be hit with steep tariffs.
A normal duty that we've been paying for 20 years would be 95 cents on this, and then $30 retail. The new one's $7.75. The extra duties on top of the normal duties is close to $600,000.
Barr says the company is already planning for 2026 and 2027, but they can't price anything yet because no one knows how long the tariffs may last or if they are permanent. And while we're talking about business, you've likely come across a shop that says they do not accept cash, they're card only. Oregon State Senator James Manning Jr., a Democrat representing the Eugene area, had that experience recently, and being a lawmaker, it prompted him to try and change it. Senate Bill 1176 would very firmly remind Oregon businesses that if they're open to the public, they have to accept cash as payment. Senator Manning says he realized the problem when he went to pay for drinks for a group he was with in Portland just last year.
I met with a group of folks, and we were at the bar having a little conversation and stuff, and I offered to purchase a couple of beverages for folks. And then when I went to settle up the bill, they told me that they didn't accept cash. And I'm like, you don't accept cash. So there was, in this one location, same building, I had to use a debit card to pay a small amount for the purchase of a beverage. And I'm thinking that why are we doing that? Because we did a bill a few years ago that says that all public accommodations must accept U.S. currency.
He's talking about Senate Bill 1565 from the 2022 session. That required businesses to accept U.S. currency or cash for payment. But as Senator Manning noticed, and perhaps you've noticed, not all businesses got the memo or care to follow it. Perhaps because there's not really a penalty for not accepting cash. Consumers can file a complaint with the Oregon Bureau of Labor and Industries, but it's not clear what action the agency can take if a business continues to refuse to take cash and coins. This session's bill would require the agency to educate businesses that they must accept cash. There are a few exceptions. A business can refuse to take any combination of cash over $100. Farmers markets and roadside stands can refuse cash, and so can airplanes and online businesses. Businesses are also allowed to require cash be turned into cards. Some call them reverse ATMs, as long as it's free to use and you get your remaining money back when you leave. If you've been to the Moda Center, that's what they use. So far, the bill has passed the Senate without a lot of controversy. Only one person has filed testimony in opposition. They wrote, "I'm an employee of a small locally owned food service business in Portland. We operate as a cashless business in order to discourage break-ins, robberies, and maintain a safe environment for ourselves and our customers." They went on, "If the state insists on enforcing a law that forces us to accept cash, I would propose that it also enacts laws that forces insurance companies to stop raising rates on small businesses every time one of our windows gets broken." The bill is now with the House waiting for a vote in the Committee of Commerce and Consumer Protection. And while there are still 8 weeks left in the Oregon legislative session, lawmakers in the state of Washington wrapped up their work yesterday in Olympia. They passed balanced operating and transportation budgets. The gas tax is going up, along with taxes and fees for most business owners. But now lawmakers have to wait on Governor Bob Ferguson before any state services are cut or taxes are raised. The governor has to sign the budgets into law, and he said today that he's in no rush. Drew Mickelson has the story.
To get a piece of legislation like this to where it is, it takes a team.
Governor Bob Ferguson has already signed nearly 200 bills into law.
I'm going to use 3 pens to sign this, if that's okay.
Today's strengthens child labor law penalties.
The title of the bill will be the title of the act.
But as for the budget passed by legislators, he says that could take weeks, saying his staff will go through the 1,300-page document line by line.
It's detailed. It's my first budget. And look, my obligation as governor is, of course, to go through that budget line by line with the team. It's a lot of work, but we'll be taking a thoughtful approach to it and obviously having a public conversation once we reach the conclusion of those budgets.
Got it?
The budget raises more than $1 billion in K-12 funding for special education programs and maintenance costs, but also cuts funding for colleges and universities, delays scheduled increases in state child care subsidies, calls for the closure of the Mission Creek Correction Center for women, and raises the price for a state park's Discover Pass from $30 to $40 a year. The gas tax would go up 6 cents starting in July. Increases in the business and occupancy taxes would impact most business owners. The state's top capital gains earners would pay more, and a new electric vehicle tax would be established. Only Tesla would be impacted for now. Democratic leaders say the state will still be a good place to do business.
We've got some of the best education, we've got transportation, and we've got a beautiful environment. And the investments that we ask business to make via our B&O system keeps it that way.
Every time we raise a tax, we take money out of a consumer's pocket.
All year, Republicans argued the budget could be balanced without new taxes. But they were pleased with a late addition to the budget, $100 million for local governments to hire law enforcement officers.
It's refreshing. There are parts of the budget here that, yes, I find distasteful, but this is an absolute golden egg.
The governor has 20 days, not counting Sundays, to make a decision on the operating and transportation budgets. In that time, he will also have to decide if he will sign a bill to cap rent increases at 7% plus inflation or 10%, whichever of those two is less. There are some exceptions, but that's another piece of legislation that the governor wants his staff to look at before he puts pen to paper.
And of course I'm going to be public about it, because this community deserves to know what they're losing.
The war of the words between the Multnomah County Chair and the District Attorney continued today, with DA Nathan Vasquez saying that proposed cuts to his office will do more harm than good. Vasquez says the current budget proposal from the chair would force him to cut 5%, or roughly $3 million of his budget, forcing job losses or reassignments, including a retail theft prosecutor and investigator. That prosecutor, Teresa Turner, would be reassigned because the position is currently paid for with temporary funding. Vasquez says if the cuts go through, his office would have to pull back on big operations targeting crime rings.
DDA Turner is routinely meeting with retailers across the metro area. She's routinely working with law enforcement to do these coordinated efforts. That stuff goes away because when we start losing funding and our ability to really fund these positions, we're looking at core services.
Multnomah County faces a $77 million budget shortfall. More than 100 positions and several programs are on the chopping block. Nearly every department was told to make cuts. The county's final budget is expected to be approved in June, and Vasquez says he'll keep pushing to protect the retail theft program and his department until then. Coming up on The Story, sea lions are crowding the Columbia River and taking over local fishing spots. Now, some say they're also putting the salmon population at risk as lawmakers try to protect both species. That's next when The Story returns. Coming up tonight on Straight Talk, the Portland Public Schools superintendent says the district is dealing with chronic absenteeism from not only students, but also teachers. Portland isn't alone in this. Other districts are also dealing with more missed days for teachers. Last month, the Oregonian released the results of a survey of 10 metro area districts showing, on average, increased teacher absenteeism since 2019. Our Stephanie Domerant sat down with the superintendent of Oregon's largest public school district this week and asked for her thoughts on the trend.
Well, I'm extremely concerned, right? Not only for the well-being and health of our educators and staff, but also for the implications of an educator not being in the classroom, right? We know that that means that there's quality instruction that students could potentially miss out on if not paired with a sub that's trained in the subject area or in the curriculum that is typically distributed in the classroom.
In the full interview, we ask her how the district plans to tackle teacher and student absenteeism, along with other issues in Portland Public Schools, including the budget deficit and how federal mandates are impacting the district. You can watch Stephanie's full interview on Straight Talk in less than 15 minutes right here on KGW at 7, or you can watch it anytime by downloading the free TV and streaming app KGW+. Whenever we talk about salmon restoration on the story, it is a near guarantee that someone will email or call us and say that no matter what is done to try and help salmon, there's a bigger problem at play. So tonight, let's go there. What is that problem? Potentially sea lions. The battle between sea lions and fishermen has been raging for decades, likely much longer, on the Columbia River. But tension is growing in Longview, where it appears hundreds of sea lions have found a permanent home. Joe Ranieri explains.
There's always going to be a good crowd on the Columbia River, whether it's people trying to reel one in.
A couple weeks ago, though, when the smelt were going up through here, it was insane.
Or these California and Steller sea lions.
When we're out here trying to catch a fish for ourselves, and we have one taken from us while we're trying to catch it, that just goes to show you another part of the factor about how smart these things are.
This is what it looks like along Cottonwood Island near Longview. So we're 60 miles upstream from the Pacific Ocean along the Cowlitz River in Longview, and this is the competition the salmon are seeing. And the competition between the two is who can swim faster. But for fishermen,
it's very frustrating. I drive 250 miles from Pendleton to do this every year.
Even when they catch them, there are signs of a struggle between the salmon and these 1,000-pound predators.
Yeah, he survived a battle for sure.
Definite sea lion infringement.
This is how brazen they are along the Columbia River. I spotted two different sea lions grabbing salmon within 2 miles of each other. The sea lions have pretty much taken over this area and are so loud, Washington Republican Senator Jeff Wilson can hear them from his home.
The devastation that they've done seems to be increasing more and more.
He worries what will happen if this population of sea lions continues to grow.
Fish runs being devastated. Our spring Chinook run has a very good chance of being eaten at a 25%, all the way up to nearly half of these runs will be decimated.
Sea lions are covered under the Marine Mammal Protection Act. In 2018, lawmakers in both Oregon and Washington amended the act to allow state officials, as well as 6 local tribes, to remove the sea lions by killing them or trapping and relocating them. In Oregon, they've had some success.
We've seen a reduction in some of these problems because we've been trapping at Bonneville Dam and at Willamette Falls.
Especially near the falls in Oregon City.
We trap there because the wild winter steelhead run on the Willamette River was frankly going extinct.
Right now, both Oregon and Washington lawmakers are hoping to get that amendment extended to allow them to continue removing these animals for another 5 years. The amendment covers only certain areas. In Washington, it's at Bonneville Dam. In Oregon, it's Willamette Falls, Bonneville Dam, and east of I-205 all the way to the McNary Dam in Umatilla. Now, what fishermen like Bill Monroe want...
And if we don't do something, we're in a little bit of trouble.
A little more time to fight their biggest competition that seem to grow in larger crowds every year.
The amendment to the Marine Mammal Protection Act expires later this summer in August, but lawmakers are currently working to get that extended. Once these sea lions are caught, a couple things could happen. If they're sick, they are put down, or they could be used for research or taken to zoos. Up next on the story, we bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Safino to look ahead at this week's forecast, including a day that could reach into the 80s that I've got my eyes on. That's next when the story returns. All right, let's bring in Chief Meteorologist Matt Safino. And Matt, we haven't had much rain this month, is that right?
Yeah, that's right, Evan. The April showers have been pretty scarce, and the ones that we have had haven't really produced a whole lot of rain. I've been watching this sky cam shot up at Timberline all afternoon because it's just beautiful. The clouds kind of hovering over the top of the mountain. There's some lenticulars as well. Usually indicates a sign that our weather's about to change, and it is. We've got a little bit of rain in the forecast. You can see there's a sprinkle that's already come on shore near Astoria, and then farther north, there's been more rain up along the coast of Washington. That's headed our way tomorrow. And so far this month, though, like I said, it's, we do the rain check. It's been dry. Not even an inch of rain so far this month. The average for the month to date is nearly 2 inches greater than that. So we're running a deficit of about 2 inches right now for the month of April. And there is not much rain in the forecast through the weekend. In spite of what I just said about tomorrow morning, yes, we will get a few showers, but they're going to be light. So let's look at the rainfall that we have had so far this April, day by day. First of the month, we had 100th. Second of the month, 300s. Only twice this month have we had more than 1/10 of an inch. It was back on the 6th. We had a little bit less than half an inch. That's our biggest daily rainfall for the month. Wow. And you can see all the days with no rain at all. So again, if we look at these numbers and break them down, well, the average for the number of days with at least measurable rain, 1/100th of an inch or more in April, is 17. This month, we've only had 10, so far less than average. The average for days with 1/10 of an inch of rain or more is 9. We've only had 2, and that ties for the third fewest days with 1/10 of an inch of rain. So if you haven't been watering your garden yet, you're probably going to need to do it pretty soon because it's just been very, very dry out there. And as I said, there's not a lot of rain in the forecast. Now we look to the north from the coast. You can see the clouds are beginning to thicken, and they are approaching, and they will bring us some rain. Same thing here in the valleys, but it's not exactly a big soaker coming our way. Our high temperature today was 67. We'll cool off a little bit tomorrow with the clouds and the showers in the morning, but we sure ramp up quickly as we go through the week. Look at the system coming our way. Even on the coast of Washington, it hasn't produced much rain, less than 1/10 of an inch in most spots. Friday Harbor up in the San Juans had exactly that much. So we are 63 right now, the freezing level 10,000 feet. All right, our forecast for the morning, sprinkles. So we get a few April showers there, but then it dries right out again. And look at this 7-day forecast, Evan. We go 72 on Wednesday. I think you had your eye on that day.
That's on Thursday, yeah.
Thursday, the 1st of May, we're up to 83. Still in the 70s on Friday. And while I've got showers from the forecast for Saturday and Sunday, it's not a lot of rain then either. So we'll have to just keep watching it. Sometimes it happens, and we can end up getting more rain later in May. But right now, it's looking pretty dry.
Sure thing. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. That is the end of our show for tonight. Thank you for watching. Straight Talk is coming your way next. If you ever miss an episode of The Story at 6:30, we re-air it at 8:30 and 10:30 p.m. that night over on our TV and streaming app, KGW+. We'll also air it the next day at 11:30 in the morning. You can download KGW+ right now on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. Blair Best is set to be back with you tomorrow night. Thank you for joining me on The Story for the past week. Have a fantastic rest of your Monday.